Okay, just to warn you guys, majority of this bio is on Mike Ness. So yeah, well, he is the only real lineup. So anyways, if this band had like a little mini series, it has to be like 10 parts because this band has been around for 30 plus years that they've been around. So as we all know, Mike Ness is like the leading band, and he was born in Lynn, Massachusetts on April 3rd, 1962. Later that year, him and his family relocated in Orange County, California. He grew up with his father listening to country music and mother being a hippie who introduced him to like rock and roll, but as well as running off to an old lady's house in Fullerton who had a spare bedroom. There he would stay at times to get away from his toxic household. In that space, in that bedroom specifically, he would stay in. There were like pictures of like religions, Renaissance, nudity. He said he would just turn on the radio and that it was sex, drugs, and rock and roll right in front of him. And he knew at 5 years old that's what he was going to do. Mike knew right away as a kid that he wasn't going to be signing up for no little league fucking football and all that shit. He wanted to build a chopper. He wanted to ride motorcycles. He just wanted to be an Easy Rider. That's a movie. Go Google it in case you guys don't know what I'm talking about. But it just wasn't his lifestyle. He looked up to like his uncles, he would mention a lot, who were all riding choppers and hanging out with their girlfriends and smoking cigarettes. So that's what he wanted to do. So the music that he will listen to a lot, like I said, it was both country and rock and roll, a lot of the R&B, old school R&B, I should say. And as well as the glitter rock with the David Bowie and the T-Rex. But then as he grew up, he got angrier like most teenagers, and he was listening to the Sex Pistols. He was listening to Black Sabbath. He couldn't believe what he was listening to when he first heard Black Sabbath. So he really thought he was also Sid Vicious. Like he wanted to be Sid Vicious so badly.
God Save the Queen. I thought I was Sid Vicious when I was 17 and playing with a knife, and I almost cut off this finger, and so it's handicapped. People are just like looking like, why is he playing like that? It's because his finger is almost useless. For instance, I do an A minor like this. Most people do it like this, but this hand is limited, hence my blues scales are not as good as they could be.
So around 15 years old, he started getting more serious about playing music, and he couldn't play guitar, but he was able to get in a band. So he had met some band members from Cal State Fullerton, and he played with Tom Corvin and Casey Royer, who were like the first two to form the band, I guess you could say. And he was like 15, like I said, and Royer has said like he was trying to play guitar but he couldn't, and Social Distortion got its name from the distortion pedal which Royer had gave to him because Mike couldn't play at all and was no good.
17, and I was really lucky to catch that wave, with those older guys, because they really did change my life. They were all in garage bands, and it was all about just going to their rehearsals. And a particular band that stands out was a band called the Mechanics. And downtown Fullerton, they were they dressed in gas station attendant clothes, dirty. They drank beer out of quart oil cans, and they came out and said, "Hey, we're the Mechanics and we don't play any fucking slow songs." They were a huge influence on my guitar playing and style and just, attitude.
So eventually Tom Corvin graduated and he left for Bob Jones University in 1979. Mike Ness recruited his high school friend Dennis Donnell to join the band on guitar. Even though Donnell never played an instrument before, this is starting to sound like AFI. But when Donnell was brought in, the other members left because they just were not going to wait on him to learn. But before they knew it, and anybody knew it, Dennis Donnell ended up staying in the band with Social Distortion for 2 decades.
Ichabod's, which was in Fullerton, which near the college, which was kind of like, you know, they had like new wave night, you know, and then you could go and see some bands that would be like acceptable, you know, like they wouldn't let the Germs or anyone play there, but they'd let like the Plugs or someone like that play. But it was my watering hole, and the Cuckoo's Nest was the opposite of that. They let anybody play. And then we would go to Redondo Beach, we would go to Hollywood, we went just wherever because it was very spread out. Those were some of the first places that we got to play, and we got to play because some of the older kids I mentioned and some of the older bands like Eddie and the Subtitles or the Adolescents had us open for them.
Eventually, right after the separation from the original lineup and getting a couple new members, the first single, Mainland/Playpen, was released in 1981 on Posh Boy label. They were responsible for like the OC punk bands at that time, and Rodney Bingenheimer was responsible for these bands to hit the radio. Mind you, he was a DJ on K-Rock, so he took a liking to Social D and was responsible for putting them on the radio. In 1982, the band was getting ready to do a US-Canada tour, and around this time, they were already working on Mommy Little Monster, which hit in early 1983, as well as a small hiatus right after that. Mike mentioned in the DVD commentary that he had nowhere to go once he returned back to California. He couch surfed and his drug addiction got worse. He was wanted for petty crimes, and he knew he had to make a change and leave Fullerton, California. So around 1986 to 1988, the band reformed again. After finally Mike Ness was out of like drug rehabilitation and prison. His second album was released, Prison Bound, 2 years later, over 5 years after their first debut, I believe. The album it did include newcomers John Moore on bass and Christopher Reese on drums. And even though Prison Bound didn't billboard the charts, K-Rock played it constantly. I love this album, by the way. And if you've never seen Mike Ness perform Prison Bound, the actual song, you need to. It's fucking awesome. I mean, I love the guy's voice. And this is where you notice, too, in this album, he started incorporating some country in the album as well, rockabilly, old school rockabilly, to the point where some people were calling it cowpunk. So they were, I forgot to mention, they were with Restless Records during that time with Prison Bound, but then they left and signed with Epic Records. So at that time, that was finally when they knew they hit it big, and they knew they were going to hit it mainstream with their self-titled album. And they also know this was also their album that was not financially supported by the band. Instead, it was like an actual record working it with them. And Mike had said something like, I knew it was kind of surreal, like, and kind of like weird at the same time when all these people were coming in and they were telling us, well, we need to, talk about the album artwork, and he didn't understand why. And like at those days, remember they had to be presentable being sold in stores, these record albums. I mean, remember the whole issue with Cannibal Corpse, like how they couldn't get their albums sold because, Kmart and all them didn't want, butchered corpses basically on the albums because they didn't want to hear it from the parents or whatever. So, yeah, so then that's when it got, like, real to him that this was it. Like, yeah, because they had to talk over album covers. And we all know Ball of Chain. A lot of you are probably tired of it. I love it. But I could understand why, because that's probably the only song that was played the most by them, even though they have so many other great songs. Ring of Fire, Story of My Life. They say to this day, supposedly that is like their #1 album that people love it to this day. I think they have better albums than that, but that's just my personal opinion. I still love it, don't get me wrong.
It's very retrospective, now I'm clean a few years, and it was like the ball and chain was my addiction, and stopping me from doing the things in life that I wanted to do. And when you think about it, I mean, the song kind of is really like a prayer.
So their fourth album came out somewhere between Heaven and Hell, was released in 1992. This one actually surpassed the previous albums in sales and overall. Another great album I highly recommend. And they took a little hiatus and then they came back. It wasn't that long. They took just like a little mini hiatus. But during that time, they were still working on demos for their next album, and which happens to be my favorite album of all time, White Light, White Heat, White Trash. And I always fuck up the name to it, and this is the first time I did it because I'm reading my notes. But anyways, that was released in 1996, and this does have the rockabilly sound to it, but it's a lot more of a harder sound, and I love it. And Don't Drag Me Down is like my anthem. It really is. It's just my anthem. And at one point, Dear Lover was like the heartbreak, it was like the overall perfect heartbreak song to listen to. And yeah, oh, trust me, I went through some major heartbreak and that helped me with some major pain. This whole album right here has helped me survive. So I'm just letting you know that right now. That's why I'm like fucking like fangasming so badly and praising this album, because I think I must have been like 20 years old when I first discovered this album, even though it came out like in 1996. But I discovered this album through a couple of rockabilly friends that I had back in the day when I actually had rockabilly friends. But if you guys see my previous videos, you know what I'm talking about. But I can't explain how much I love it. It just basically, think of 20-year-old Jax, mind you, I'm 33 now, 20-year-old Jax hitting the Jack Daniels all the time, being rebellious. I just wanted to be free. Like, I just wanted to be free. This album made my soul fucking scream and soar so fucking high. And I can't even name that many albums that could do that to me. Like, it made me like drain out the pain from being heartbroken and just from feeling alone and feeling abandoned. Oh my goodness, I'm fangasming so much. Okay, I gotta stop. But yeah, anyway, go listen to the album. It's real great. So Sex, Love, and Rock and Roll was released, and right after that, around in February 29, 2000, Dennis Danell, who, like I said, has been with the band for 2 decades, passed away from a brain aneurysm. So leaving Mike Ness as the only member, and they went on another hiatus, and around that time, that's when Mike Ness decided to do his solo career. He wanted to do more on the countryside, so he did a lot of, his versions of old country songs from back in the day, like 6 More Miles and Don't Think Twice. And it was actually a good album. He actually had a couple of them, Cheating at Solitaire and Under the Influences. Both great. I'm not a big country fan, but I like these 2 albums a lot. So he thought it would be best to like go on his own and do that, because come on, incorporating that with Social Distortion, I mean, I get it, they have like some country influences, but that's too much of a change. And he said he's glad that he did that, because when he came back, he felt refreshed and wanted to do more work. And sometimes, you just have to leave for a little bit and come back and feel brand new, after you're done doing something else. Mike Ness has definitely gone through a lot, and he's definitely has shown that he's been able to prove that he's probably one of the best talented musicians out there. Even if he had to give up guitar playing for a while to one of the band members of TSOL because he broke his wrist while skateboarding. So he's still able to make it. So throughout this time already in the 2000s, they released the Greatest Hits album, and then eventually came out with Hard Times and Nursery Rhymes in 2011. Their song Machine Guns Blues off the album was the first single that was available on iTunes and was first released on K-Rock. And they also performed Jimmy Kimmel Live with this song, as well as Story of My Life. But ever since then, they haven't made a new album, and they've been working on that. And that was 2011 right there. And Mike Ness has said that purposely that he was going to take a while to work on the next Social Distortion album, that he wanted it to be a long gap. He basically wanted the album to be more disciplined, but apparently this album has been out for a while, just not released. Okay, that didn't make sense, but you know, basically it's in possession, and one day he'll release it, but he might make some few changes, who knows. But yeah, so I'm still waiting on that goddamn album. I've been waiting for, oh my god, how long ago was that? We're in 10 years. Oh wow. It's been 10 fucking years and they haven't released a new album. No, Mike, if you watch this, I hope you do. I hope you do, and I love you. Yeah, you like, please, skadoodle. I'm not trying to rush you, but you know, it's been 10 years too, and I've been very patient. Very fucking patient. And I need new music. And can I get free tickets? Okay, don't listen to me. But anyways, but going back to the album that they have been working on, um, he has said, Mike, I mean, he has said that he has incorporated a couple of the songs on his sets that he's been on, just to let people know that, you know, they're not sitting on their asses. And if you guys are in the SoCal area, apparently Wednesday, October 6th at the Majestic Ventura Theater, Social Distortion will be playing. And let's see, October 7th, it's going to be the UC Theater. Evan, if you're watching this, let's go. Like, seriously, let's go. I have not seen Social Distortion live yet, and I need to. One of my all-time favorite bands I have to see live as well, next to AFI. I already seen all my favorite metal bands. Now it's time to see the ones outside of metal. But anyways, I would like to thank you guys so much for watching this video. And I know it's not a metal you know, band or anything, but thank you for at least letting me take the time to talk about this band and AFI, which obviously are not metal bands, and to express my love for it. It's just, I like to talk about bands that have changed my life as well, and hopefully maybe Social D will see this. Probably not, they're not going to care about this, but you know, it'll be great if like Mike Ness will see this. He'll probably have to correct me on a lot of shit, because who knows if any of the stuff I say was right. Anyways, thank you so much for watching, and let's just enjoy the last minute of me putting on makeup. And you know I had to go with the red lip, right? Because, oh, by the way, I probably should have mentioned this. I wasn't really trying to match the shirt. You're going to see at the end is basically the logo. But I was just trying to go more for that rockabilly look. And I know like a lot of girls have been wanting me to do more of a neutral look. So there you go. I hope this helped. You don't have to do the red lip. You could do just a neutral lip if you want. Or shit, go for a black lip if you want. Anyways, yeah. So I hope, you know, you guys found this entertaining at least. And yeah. Thank you for watching, and make sure to take care of your vaginas and have a bonerific day, because JaxB.TheRipper said so.